Hello, welcome to ACAB True Crime. Thank you so much for being here. If you are not subscribed, please subscribe. That would be awesome. And if you like the video, please do thumbs up. That would be great. And if not, put a thumbs down too. I heard that still helps, but whatever. So yeah, I think we'll just start off from where I left off last time, where I am going over the testimony from the two detectives. Well, starting off with Mowery, and that's what I think we'll be finishing up in this video, and then getting on to the detective Brett Payne's interview or testimony from the following hearing. And last time, I just was reviewing the video and then kind of just stopping as things came up. So I think I'll stick with that same process. And also, so now before I was using it from an actual recording on my phone, but now I don't think I have one. So I'm going to just review the live hearing that I did. So you might end up seeing me go back and forth between what I'm wearing now and what I was wearing on the 23rd. So anyways, it doesn't matter, but just in case you guys are weird, what's going on? But hopefully all of the sound and stuff will work with that. But let's just jump right in. Also, um, Leela's here with us today too. So we always love to have Leela around. Hey Leela, we love you. Okay. Hope everyone had a good weekend. I'm just kind of getting back into the swing of things. So, yeah, let's add this.
That's something that you have electronic on your computer, and then you open your CastBiz program and just import it into the program?
Yes, AT&T provides both PDF and text documents of the file.
I think I said this last time that we were watching this because I feel like this was I might be doing a double time thing right here. I might have talked about it last time, but anyways, I think this sounds like the text is the text version means that you can change the text on it. PDF means you can't. Yeah, I do remember talking about this. And he's like, yeah, you can get both forms of that.
Use the text documents to put into CastBiz to adjust.
And when you do that, what gets exported?
Okay, so I'm trying to figure out how to say this part that makes sense in an easy way because I keep kind of going all over the place. So I'm just gonna try to explain. It sounds like to me he got this set of data in two different forms. So he got the AT&T uh, data, which was call records of specifically Bryan Kohburger over this 48-hour period. And he received, and that also includes location. And he got sent a PDF form of the data, and then he also got a text form of the data. And those should be the exact same data in both forms. But the difference is that you can actually change the information in the text form. So he could go in there and he could have opened it up. He would have clicked on the text file, would open up, and then he could go into the specific areas and change things and then input that information into this program, which is the CastBiz program. And it sounds like he didn't, he's saying he did use the text version. So that means that he did use the file that was sent to him that he could have changed. And then, so it's kind of why did he use that file? And then, I mean, PDF would be the safer version because then you can't really, you can prove that you didn't mess with the information. I mean, I guess you could find different ways to kind of go around that. But I mean, anyways, so he used this specific, data set, and then he put it in to this CastBiz program. And when you run things on the program, so you can put in there, let's only look at female respondents. So then you'd put in that code, and then it would kind of say, put out, export what it did in response to your code. And then and then you can kind of keep doing that a lot as you go along. And then you would save that information, and that would be your export data. So it would show his whole process and how he got to these screenshots, and he wouldn't need to screenshot the information because it would be already saved in this document that he already had to make. So it makes zero sense that he would, I mean, he's making triple time the work for himself basically. And it's just if you know this program and if you want to do good police work and be able to prove that you can't just ask people to take your word for it when you have a way to actually prove that you did do it. You know what I mean? So, and it makes more work for himself to have to go back in. Like, if he did this shit on 419, took the screenshots or whatever, and then he gets asked to go through and review shit on 5.3, but it's like, then he now has to go back in and do everything over again when he already, like, did it, but he didn't save it. So it makes no sense. I mean, unless he's just a doofus, which I'm sure that they'll probably try to argue, but like, I mean, then it was inappropriate for him to be gathering this information if that's the case. Like, for him to be doing this type of data analysis and like putting it out there in the PCA, if he doesn't know the system well enough to not be able to perform that in a way where it is like, competent and like, just logical the way that it should be done. I mean, like, I think that's why she's asking like the training and stuff, because sure it says, especially for like law enforcement, if you're trying to prove this stuff, like, make sure you save your work and that you can prove that this is what you did and go back in and they'll be able to do the same shit. So anyways, I probably talked too much about that, but yeah.
Nothing. At that point, nothing is exported or created that I know of.
Can you export the session that you're working on?
You can export the session log, yes.
Did you do that?
No.
How did you create?
I'm sorry, but like, what the hell? Like, the way that okay, I know people are going to be like, you're being too, nitpicky, but the way that he said that, like, sounded so weird. Like, it sounded like she's like, okay, did you save the export? Because, like, that's what you should have done, because, that is what they, have trained you to do. And the way that he responds, kind of knowing that he fucked up by not saving it, he's just like, no, no. Like, it just sounds like so immature. Like, also the way that this judge kind of looks and like smiles sometimes, I feel like that seems pretty not super professional, or just a little bit immature too. So I don't know. It's just, maybe it's like a Utah thing, but I don't know. I meant Idaho there.
Screenshots.
By using the built-in Windows snip tool,
I'm actually going to go back.
as well as
Yeah, he sounds like such a know-it-all there.
AT&T CDR.
Okay. So you put that record in. The tower locations are already part of the call detail record that you put in.
Yes.
Is that something that you have electronic on your computer, and then you open your Cascade program and just import it into the program?
Yes, AT&T provides both PDF and text documents of the file, and I use the text documents to put into Cascade to edit it.
And when you do that, what gets exported?
Nothing. At that point, nothing is exported or created that I know of.
Can you export the session that you're working on?
You can export the session log.
He was like, not that I know of, like, he's like, because he knows that he doesn't know the system very well and that he shouldn't be working with it. And so I feel like, even though this isn't him, like, I'm probably going a little too far with like this assumption, but like, to me, it almost sounds like he is kind of like in his head being like, oh shit, like, maybe there is like an output thing that I don't know about, that now they're going to be able to catch me. But as far as I know, just being like the layman that's using the system, I don't know if that makes sense. But anyways.
Yes.
And when you do that, what gets exported?
Nothing. At that point, nothing is exported or created that I know of.
Can you export the session that you're working on?
You can export the session log, yes.
Did you do that?
No.
How did you create screenshots?
By using the built-in Windows snip tool, as well as the built-in Windows game console, they call the game bar, which is just accessed by hitting Windows G.
Okay, oh my god. So that's super shitty. I feel like what he just did there, like, okay, he is trying to sound, because I think the judge literally has like no idea what's going on, and I'm like annoyed with the way that I recorded this before, because you can't see his reaction here, so that sucks. Like, and I don't think that the judge keeps these live hearings like on his I might have to double check that, but I don't think he keeps it on his YouTube channel, which is like where he streams it. So I don't know. Anyways, I might double check that later. But yeah, so here he's kind of like, she's like, okay, well, how did you screenshot? Because she's thinking, maybe if he took a screenshot, like, it would save in the program, like if it was like a screenshot of the program itself. But now he's like, kind of, I feel like he's trying to sound like he knows what the hell he's doing, and that he's like super smart, and explaining just like with a simple Windows shit, like how to take a screenshot on Windows. Like, that has nothing to do with this CAS system. He's just being like, and then the game console that you can also use or whatever. And it's just like, okay, this is basic ass shit. This is basic setting shit of your PC.
Allows you to record your screen.
Are those the only two things you did, is screen clip and screen record?
Yes.
How many times did you use call detail records in CASBIS program?
Probably 11 times. I'm not very sure.
you how many times did you use? And then she ends up in the like 2 seconds, she's going to be like, oh, that was such a stupid question, which is not that stupid. But I think he might have interpreted it correctly. And I honestly feel like this is probably the only case maybe that he has used the CASBIZ system to me. Like, I would be interested to find out about that. And like, I'd be concerned if he's doing this for like more trials because he's not good at it. But
That was a terrible question. How
oh
many
yeah,
times?
that's right. So just how many times that he did this with this data, like, because it's like now she's at okay. So what she's asking is, how many times did you go back into that cast biz system and play around with things? Like, because you can go in a bunch of times and like you can have different sessions every single day, a different playing with different types of data. That's like what a lot of statisticians do and like other people that do kind of data analysis. And he, yeah. So she is. I think
Times did you use the CASBIZ program?
yeah, so she's asking him specifically how many times did you use it for this case? And it sounds like he's like, well, I don't, yeah, he says like 12 times, but I think he might be answering for this case, which is kind of weird. It's like, why did you go in there and use it that many times? Like, if you're only, looking at it for, it means it should only be like 4 times. Like, you shouldn't be going back in over and over again. That to me suggests that you're like fucking with some of the information and what he's answering. It, like, to me is suggesting that he probably did some stuff like, he was messing with stuff.
Program in relation to Bryan Kohburger's call detail records.
I don't know.
More than once?
I recall doing it for Evidentiary because I wasn't the main lead in the call detail records investigation.
I don't understand what that means.
I wasn't the main person looking at those call detail records.
You weren't the main person with the call detail records, but you put them in the CASBIZ program anyway?
For the grand jury, I was requested.
Okay. What did you rely on in producing those? Producing whatever you produced for the grand jury?
Okay, so this is concerning. Like, she's definitely kind of like, he's like, I think right here, he is trying to back out and of any type of, he's not taking full accountability or responsibility for like the shit that he produced for the PCA. And she's kind of like, he's like, well, I wasn't the main person to be working with that data. And she's like, you weren't the main person to be working with that? Like, then why did you do it? Why are you the person with the PCA? Like, why are you that person doing that? Like, if you're not the main person, like, this is an important document. This is, you're making sure like you have different standards that you have to match in order to put information into the PCA. And it sounds like he's just, kind of was like, now he's saying like, oh yeah, they just told me to go throw this information together. But it's like, well, it sounds like it was totally inappropriate for him to do that. Like, he absolutely should not have been doing that. So, and people are going to just say like, well, I mean, what's done is done, but it still doesn't mean that like Bryan Kohburger didn't do that and that this information isn't like what it actually is. But I think it shows that he, like, there's a big possibility that he could have messed with the information and there's no way to prove that they didn't tamper with this stuff, and I mean, from the looks of things, it almost, I mean, I do like kind of have an idea, like the saying of, a lot of times it's where a lot of people think it's like a conspiracy, like it ends up actually just being incompetence. And so I think there can be kind of like a thin line between those two things. But right here, this is definitely, it's twerking on the fence between whether or not this shit was intentional or if they were just total doofuses the way that they put it together. And, this was like the most important case in the entire country, and like has been for a long time. Everyone was crazy about it. Like, why were they not making sure to do absolutely everything the way it should be by procedure? Like, or else if it's not, then you're gonna get this shit thrown out. You know what I mean? And then now this, like, if he did do it, you're gonna let this like murder off just because you did shitty police work. Like, if you actually have enough information to know that this guy did it, then like use the evidence to stand on itself. Like, you don't need to be embellishing anything. Like, I mean, I don't think that we can actually just accept the fact that if they say that they were just trying to like, punch up like the way that it looks. Like, no, I think we should be a lot more inquisitive into like, or we should not completely rule out the possibility that this could have been, kind of dirty work.
That's a terrible question. How many times did you use the CASBIZ program in relation to Bryan Kohburger's call detail records?
I don't know.
More than once?
I recall doing it for Evidentiary because I wasn't the main lead in the call detail records investigation.
I don't understand what that means.
I wasn't the main person looking at those call detail records.
You weren't the main person with the call detail records, but you put them in the CASBIZ program anyway?
For the grand jury, I was requested.
Okay. What did you rely on in producing those? Producing whatever you produced for the grand jury?
rely on? What did that produce? As far as the PTT records,
I want to know what you relied on to do that, to produce something for the grand jury.
I don't understand the question.
Okay. You weren't the main guy with the call detail records or with the cast programming. Did I understand that much right?
There was another investigator that was doing it.
Okay. But you ended up involved in it somehow in April of 2023, is that right?
That's why I was asked to examine the data to provide that for the grand jury.
Okay. Was that all of your instruction?
What do you mean by that?
Well, you're asked by somebody else who's actually doing this part of the investigation in the case to produce something for the grand jury to use.
Yeah, so she wants to know right there. I mean, he's like, well, yeah, they just asked me to do that. Like, he's claiming, you know, ignorance. Like, this was just the one thing that I was asked to do for that thing, and blah blah blah. Like, or these two things were the only thing. And it's kind of like, dude, you are not appropriate. You've proven that you do things in a really fucked up way with this program, and obviously, like, don't understand it well enough to be able to actually utilize it, especially for really important cases. So yeah, what else did they ask you to do? If you're this incompetent, like, we need to know what other things that we need to possibly question that you presented as information or as evidence. Like, I mean, he's like, what? Because he probably had, you know, his hand in all of this the entire time. But, you know, that's why he's like, what do you mean? And she's like, well, yeah, what else were you working on? And I think he just is kind of like, well.
And I'm curious about what you relied on, what you to get to that point. I want to know all the records you relied on, all of the emails, all the conversations you relied on to produce this thing that you're not the expert for.
So I wrote the update for the AT&T records, received the AT&T records. Those records were also given to another investigator who was the main investigator doing the CDR records. Prosecution that asked me to provide or create some type of visualization of the call detail records and examine the call detail records for 4 hours in question.
Just to be really sure, when you talked about writing the 2 warrants for AT&T, we're talking about 2 warrants that relate to Bryan Kohburger. There were a lot of other warrants. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Yes. I just want to be really clear on that. You've taken the cast training. Is that right?
Yes.
And you know there's a way to save your session. Is that correct?
Yes.
And there's also a way just to hit reset and delete your session. Do you know that part too? And back in April, when you were creating something for the grand jury, you hit reset. Is that right?
Or I just deleted the file out of it. I don't remember any reset or even the division result.
You don't remember which thing you did? But you decided to delete what you created.
Don't know.
Yeah, like, that's a choice. Like, that's intentional. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, he's trained to not do that. And he had a choice to not do that. And he chose to do it. You know what I mean? Like, you're trained to save your information. You're trained to not delete this stuff. Like, but instead he went in and he specifically intentionally deleted against what he was trained to do. Like, why?
Oh, I didn't delete anything. I didn't create the session logs. I was delete. You delete the reference of the file in the software, but the file itself is not.
I want to make sure I understand. The record, the AT&T record still exists. You didn't delete that.
Right.
But the session, when you put that in to the cast biz program, and it does its thing, the call detail records, which includes tower references, you either deleted that session or you chose to reset. Did I understand that right?
Didn't create a session log. I don't know. I would delete it and just remove the reference to the file, the main file from the software at some point. I don't know when I did that.
You don't know when you did that?
No, you can close the software without getting reset.
And then it would just stay there.
I deleted it.
And you can also export your session if you get interrupted and you want to come back and work on it, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you do that? You left it up and running at some point and then did something that didn't save it. Is that right?
The session log was never created. Did not create a session log. The CDR records I was dealing with is relatively small. There's no need to do that because I can adjust the files right back in the cast in a short amount of time.
You want to just for clarity, I have another example to show him.
I just want to add that what he said, like, doesn't really make sense. Like, there's no reason, like, you know, he's like, well, it's not that big of a deal to put it back in there. I mean, I guess, like, again, like, you could say that, but I mean, that's not how you're trained to do it. And I think, you know, that'll come back up, like, when they talk to people that actually know how to use the system and that have actually, like, received the training. You know, that's not, like, that's negligence.
Are you familiar with the document that was handed to you that's marked Defendants W?
Yes.
And have you seen that before?
I have.
Is that something that you were taught from the cast users guide?
I'm sure I was. It's also included in the software that can be readily assessment.
Okay. And Your Honor, with me for admission of Defendants W?
If you have an objection, okay, that exhibit W is admitted.
Thank you.
No objection.
In your training, were you also taught from the cast field users guide?
I believe so.
I'm about ready to switch gears on and talk a little bit more about videos for a second, but if I can have just 1 moment, Your Honor.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, let's switch gears for just a minute. During the course of your work, did you make contact with the Idaho Department of Transportation to talk about some of the cameras that cover main roads coming into and out of Mossville?
Yes.
And did you attempt to make preservation of any items? What items did you want preserved?
I was trying to see if they had saved video or still images from those files.
What did you learn?
That I do not retain those.
When you say they do not retain those, do you mean they don't retain videos or pictures or both?
Both.
Did you do a preservation for anything?
Not recall saying actual preservation letter out.
Okay. Your Honor, if I can.
Okay, so I don't know like what necessarily preservation means like in this context, in what she's saying. I mean, I understand in this context what she is saying, but I'm not sure if there like actually is like a legal statute that you have to go by that's called like preservation. I would assume so. Whatever information you're going to use in that PCA, like you should be able to prove that what you're saying about those things. So like what she's kind of asking for here is like she was like, all right, were you in touch with like the state troopers about the cameras? Like I know that at least in Minneapolis or like in Minnesota, I'm part of like a bunch of different like Facebook groups and stuff that you can like get updates about like what people are doing. Like out, they'll be like, oh, there's like a huge accident on this crossroads, and like now they have like a medevac helicopter like landing, and they're gonna pick up like this other person or whatever. And so, and then sometimes they'll show like an actual video of like all of it going down. You know, a lot of the times they will. And so I'm assuming like in Idaho or like in Utah or whatever, they have these same things. So it sounds like she's like, did you talk to the state troopers and like, or the state, you know, highway people, Department of, I don't know what it would be, yeah, whatever, it doesn't matter. And, oh, probably, yeah, the Department of Transportation. And did you get these videos or whatever? And he sounds like, yeah, he did. But it sounds like he went back to ask, but found out that they didn't preserve things. But but is that the information that he used at the time for the PCA to get him arrested? So is he just like, is that what he's saying, that right now he found out he can't go back, but before like he's claiming that this is what he saw? I mean, that makes like we can't take his word for that. Like that's not evidence, you know. I mean, I feel like I guess that's like hearsay. But if it's a video that he saw, like why in the hell would he not collect that information if he knows he's using it for evidence? Like these are important, you know, and easy, simple things that would just be expected to be done. It sounds like they did it in all of the other areas, except the areas where it might show that Bryan Kohburger didn't do this or wasn't there. Like that's what it seems like.
What do you recognize that exhibit?
Some sort of emails that I was trying to find some kind of contact information for Windy.com, the website that does weather-related information, as well as has some links to images from cameras that are covering the highway.
And did you learn that you could have some still shots preserved?
I did.
Did you have some still shots preserved?
I did not.
Okay. You're moving for admission of defendant's P.
Okay, so that's like exactly what I said just now. And what he would say in response, like it makes zero sense. Like he didn't preserve any of this information and he knew that he could. So why didn't he? Like there's a reason for that. It's not just because he's stupid. Like he chose to do that. And it's like very particular because he did it for other things, but he didn't do it for these things like where it might be exculpatory evidence, you know? It's shady.
Okay.
Yes. What was that? PP?
Double P, yes.
That's what I thought. Okay. Exhibit PP is exhibit or admitted? No.
Okay, yeah. So I do feel like he has been kind of immature. I feel like this is an example of him been like being immature. Like obviously he got like a little giggle or like smirk about it being called PP. Like, are you serious? Like, are we literally like 10 years old? Like both of these dudes are super immature. Like, you know, like Maury's like, I don't know, no, and now like the judge is being like, oh, PP. Like, I mean, that's a little like like that's stupid. Like, let's grow up, guys. Let's get serious.
When we started talking, we talked about you kind of being the guy that would look or take videos in from different agencies, even if you didn't verify what was on the device you received. Is that right?
Yes.
And I have a specific one a couple of them I want to ask you about. One is from Red Star Coffee Shop. Do you recall receiving that video? Okay. And
okay, so just doing a little side segment here on the Red Star Coffee Company that she talked about right there, and I just was kind of curious about it and like wanted to see where it was and why it might be relevant, so I figured I'd share that with you here. Like it might be relevant next time with the Brett Payne interview too, but for here I figured I'd just like go in and show you what I found just from my own little personal research side segment. So I ended up finding out that they are in Moscow and that they seem to be located like right on the one of the four main passageways like out of Moscow. And I know that Ann Taylor talks about that in her um, testimony, or like her, yeah, when Brett Payne is doing his testimony, and Taylor talks about this like next time on the from the hearing on the 30th. Anyways, if you look at where this place is located, it looks like it's on one of the four main like entrances and exits of Moscow. So I think it's interesting just to note that, because it's probably like what will end up happening is like, I bet this can't they'll be missing this footage, and it's like one of the main routes out of Moscow, and like if it shows like that he wasn't where they're saying where he is, like that's super significant. And if they can't show one of the four main routes in and out of Moscow like at this like time that they're accusing him of stuff, like that's a problem. I just thought that that was notable. And then something else that I just thought was interesting too, and probably not necessarily like significant, but when you go to their about section, it talks about how they are somewhat like affiliated with, I mean, not affiliated, but they said that they really like taking care of their community, and that like they specifically note community members that they work with, and one of them is the like law enforcement community or community safety, like people. So that's definitely like, to me, suggests like, I don't know, that there might be some connection there with at least a good working relationship with law enforcement. And so that doesn't necessarily mean one thing or the other, but that is what I found out about Red Star Company, coffee company.
Are you aware that it was booked in or brought in by Idaho State Police? How would I find out about those videos?
No, we have to go through the USB drives to find out what was given. I was just given the last USB drives. I was not given the video that people were in for time. Given to them after that and out there. Other investigators, other assistants that were helping.
Is there somebody else I should ask about specific ones to track where they went?
I don't know. I don't have that.
Like, whoa. That seems like, again, super shady. Like, okay, what she's asking him here is like, all right, so you said earlier today that this was your duty was to go through these, to receive all of the files and to put them into the computer systems, like, right, save them somewhere, which he kind of said, oh no, that's not what he did. He actually just gave it to technicians. But he did say at one point, he was the one that brought it up, that he was like the main person that everything came to. So she's saying now, like, okay, so you got all these videos from people, right? And like you took care of it, and then you put it in the necessary places. So if we can't find shit that we want to see, because it would possibly be video that could show that this car of Brian's was completely somewhere else at the time that the crime took place, like, exonerating him. So it's like, it sounds like there are certain things missing, and they were, sounds like, probably removed on purpose for some reason, and it would be to add it to their, I guess, the strength of their argument that this was Bryan Kohburger. So, and she's kind of like, okay, so you were the main person. He's like, yeah, well, I wasn't in charge of the person. Like, I didn't check that information or whatever. I wouldn't know where it would have gone if it's disappeared, is basically what he's saying. But it's like, okay, do you know like who I should talk to? And it sounds like he says no. So it's like, dude, what? Like, how do you not know that? Like, it sounds like you were supposed to be in charge of that. And then now you're saying that you don't know. So who would be the person to ask then if this isn't there anymore? Like, where is it just gone then? Because again, like, this is all important information that could possibly show, like, if you're missing all of the cameras from one particular route, like what she's talking about, there's two routes out of Moscow, and like she's missing a bunch of videos from this one particular route at this exact same time, where they're alleging that this Brian was doing other things. Like, that's super problematic. Like, that's intentional,
All right, give me just a minute, Your Honor.
Sure.
Thank you, Detective Mowery. I don't have the other questions for now. But hold on, the prosecutor.
Thanks, Mr. Thompson.
Machines.
Okay, Ms. James.
All right, I want to go back and talk a little bit about this past this. Can you explain to me generally what is CAST?
It's just a software that is useful in creating visualizations of the detail records.
Okay. So how is it useful? What does it show?
It shows the location and the direction of the cell towers and their sector antennas.
Okay. Now, what version of CAST do you have?
Currently, I think I have 33 on my laptop. It's about to be updated to 38, but at the time, I believe I had 30 installed.
So walk me through. You start up the software program.
Yes.
And then what do you do?
Write the text file from the CDRs into the system. It ingests the files and then produces a display of that data.
Okay. And is that what you did on the 19th?
Yes.
So how is it useful? What does it show?
It shows the location and the direction of the cell.
Okay.
All right, I want to go back and talk a little bit about this CAST. Can you explain to me generally what is CAST?
It's just a software that is useful in creating visualizations of the detail records.
Okay. So how is it useful? What is it?
All right. So what he is explaining here is, kind of what we've already said is like this is a program that, crunches data and then is able to export images that you can see, oh, this cell phone was here or there, or this is where they went at this time period or whatever. And so he now she's asking him that, and then he's saying, yeah, this is like what it is. But I just want to say that like the program, it was invented to create outputs, visual outputs, and he did not save these visual outputs even though he used them. I mean, I guess I keep saying the same shit, but I feel like it's such like a huge thing that it's like this is what he specifically needed to do. Like, why didn't he do it? Like, he went, I don't know. So yeah, he just went out of his way. And like he's gonna just explain it off. But anyways,
It shows the location and the direction of the cell towers and their sector antennas.
Okay. Now, what version of CAST do you have?
Currently, I think I have 33 on my laptop. It's about to be updated to 38, but at the time, I believe I had 30 installed.
So walk me through. You start up the software program.
Yes.
And then what do you do?
Write the text file from the CDRs into the system. It ingests the files and then produces a display of that data.
Okay. And is that what you did on the 19th?
Yes.
Okay. And then what did you do with that visual that was displayed?
The visuals, I created screenshots, created the screen capture of the video, as well as a timeline playing view that you can report separately from the software. Save those.
Other than uploading.
okay, I just again want to reiterate there is zero reason for him to be taking screenshots. This program is designed specifically to create exactly what his screenshot is of. All you need to do is just have the same exact file that you already have. For some reason, he is not wanting to show his work on this. I mean, I know I keep saying the same shit, but I mean, I just can't explain anymore like that. It's like it's not like this stuff just comes like floats by or whatever and then you quick get a screenshot or something. No, this is like you're actually inputting data to look for a specific thing and then they give you that thing. So that's when you would save it, or print it at that point. Like, why are you using screenshots? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you just have this data already. Like, you can just give this information to them. It's the same exact thing, except this one is, a last step and it shows all of your work. A screenshot does not show like what you were actually using. There's no way you can prove that that screenshot is accurate. Like, no.
The CDRs. Did you change any of the settings on CAST?
The only thing I would have done was gone in and changed made sure that the time was correct because they were done it for TC. It was a coordinated time. I want to make sure that those were representative of the whole time.
Okay, so you just changed it to specific?
Correct.
Any other changes? No. Okay. So you were talking about how it does not automatically save.
It does not.
Okay. And you chose not to save.
No, in the incident that was provided, the actual text says that if you need to save the session file.
Okay. And can you tell me why didn't you save these settings?
I was creating a visualization incidents. That's why I was doing that.
Any reason to save the settings?
No.
Could this be recreated or?
There is definitely a reason that he should save that. I mean, I think that's what she's going to argue. That's what Ann Taylor's going to argue is like that is the procedural, like, he's a cop. He has to know that there are certain way that you go about things, and he chose to not do that. Like, for him to say no, there's no reason for me to save that is just ridiculous. I mean, that makes no sense at all. Like, and the fact that this woman doesn't challenge him on that is shady to me. Like, aren't we all here to get to the bottom of the truth? Like, why are we helping people create stories? You know what I mean? Like,
or redone in the same fashion?
Yes, I can again open the software, drag the CDRs back in a very short time is generated.
And it would give you the same information.
Yes.
Is that why you did it? Save it?
Yes.
Oh my god, again, I just want to say, like, that goes exactly against the procedures that he's supposed to do for this. And the fact that she's like, well, I mean, can they just go back in and do the same thing? And it's like, yeah, but like, that's fine, cool. But then if somehow it comes up different from what he showed on the thing to get him actually arrested in the probable like cause affidavit, there's no way to go back and prove or show that, this is different. So I'm interested to see what they say once they kind of are able to analyze the data that he puts in there, and like see if what they have, the defense has, if like the actual information and like do the exact same thing that he just did, I bet it will come up different from what he presented in his screenshots. Like, I bet you.
I want to switch over to the other session files that you found. Were those session files created by you?
No.
Okay. And did you ever use those?
No.
And have you now turned those over, provided those?
Yes.
I want to switch gears over to what we were discussing as Mindy.com. What is that? What is Mindy?
It's a website that is available for leather and such.
Okay. And why is that relevant in this case?
We were directed by employees at Propane that told me that we should look into Wendy.com
And why is that?
just to see if they retained video from the cameras themselves.
Okay, so Mindy.com has cameras.
They got screenshots. They basically capture the ITD cameras and they them on their website. Those images are routinely purged from their site for the administration of that.
Perfect. I mean, okay, to me, I'm like, it sounds like the state troopers had access to cameras showing these images. And, there's a way to like verify it and like show that like data has not been tampered with. So for Brett Payne to suggest for him to go to this other website to check out where they have, pictures, they might have actual records to show what now they don't have anymore. Like it sounds like maybe they didn't save some of this data that they got in the first place, or that they're saying that they got in the first place. They didn't save it. So now they're trying to see if there are some sites that did save it. That's what this sounds like to me. And then Brett Payne told Mowery, like, this is a good site to go check this out. But it sounds like this site specifically is a site that has screenshots of things. So to me, it's kind of like if you're like a whiz of, someone that works with different computer things, or maybe it's like really easy to more tamper with screenshots of things, like, and make it be less obvious that you're tampering with it, I don't know. Like, to me, there's something suspicious about that. It's like, why is Brett Payne directing him to a site with screenshots when they could have just had this data already, but they chose not to save it before from like an actual like verified source? Like, I mean, it's weird that they're using like, what is this website? Like, I don't know. It's like, if you have the data from the state troopers, like, why did you not save that? And now you're going to try to go to the site instead? Like, I don't know. It's weird.
Right. And can you explain to me, when are those you talked about them being purged from their site? What's that schedule?
From going on their website yesterday, it's a public website, so I was able to go back to it. I don't remember exactly. I believe that within 24 hours it's hourly. Within a week it's daily. Within 12 months it's monthly, and after that I'm seeing probably like 3 months or so.
Okay, whoa. So again, this is just backing up my theory that this dude is now, he has collected data. He just said whatever he used potentially from this site, for the PCA, or it sounds like for the grand jury that they did last year, they used this information. Well, he now just said some of the information that he got from the site 12 months later, they don't have the same amount of information, if any, or like a very minimal amount of the footage. So why are you choosing to go to a site that you specifically know is going to lose its data, and you aren't going to be able to let the defense regain the same information? Like, that just seems really intentionally shady. And like, I mean, then I feel like they shouldn't even be able to use that evidence. Like, if you can't share it with the prosecution that this is, like, you chose that, you could have chosen a different place that wouldn't have made you do that. Like, why are you going out of your way to get rid of the actual evidence that can help him, or help, like, it's just something up and up? And why are you going out of your way to go to like a different site to save this information that is going to get deleted? Like, that seems intentionally shady.
Can you explain why you didn't preserve those images from Wendy.com?
When it was discussed with other investigators, we would have only gotten, I believe it was one individual day. Time frame wasn't what you're interested in.
So there's no evidentiary value.
Then we
It's not up for them to decide. Like, if they say it's like of no evidentiary value, like, that's not up for the prosecution to decide. Like, they need to hand over all of the information that they have to the defense. It doesn't matter. Like, and how can they say that? They can't make that determination. I mean, you should have data from all times of the night if you're going to be able to use it in other places. Like, it just makes zero sense. Like, this is, it's fucked up that they actually discussed this and they all decided collectively that this wasn't relevant when it absolutely is totally relevant. And they just chose to not save it. Like, and like, it doesn't seem like the prosecution has a problem with that. Like, they're just like, okay. And like, they're just trying to, like, shrug it off. Like, one, the reason that you didn't save it was because, it was of no evidentiary, like, value. But it's like, dude, bitch, how do you know that? You don't know that. And it, again, is not up for these investigators to decide that. Like, they need to hand over the information that they used, which, this is information that they used. Like, I feel like the prosecution is making it seem like, Ann Taylor is making up just, these nitpicky things, but it's not. Like, I mean, they're kind of being like, oh, big deal, it's only 3% of all the information, or like, oh, big deal, it's like only like 3 of the videos that we gathered from all of them. And it's like, well, if those were the 3 videos that like provided exculpatory evidence, it is a fucking huge deal. Like, why isn't there, like, it seems very strange that all these things that could be helpful to Bryan aren't. Like, if this is where he's saying he's going to be, or that he was, and just randomly those videos happen to not be there, like, that's fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, that's, I don't know, it seems really weird.
And have you since gone back and found some screenshots?
Yes.
It's what's available on the publicly available website.
Anyone can go to Wendy.com and grab screenshots.
And you've now done that?
I have.
Anything of evidentiary value?
No.
Have those been turned over anyway?
Yes.
Is he saying Wendy's.com? What is he?
I just have one second. I don't think heard it.
Thank you. You can-
Yes, just a bit. You were just speaking with the prosecutor about the images from Wendy.com. And I thought you didn't preserve anything or go back and look at anything during your investigation. Did I misunderstand that?
So yesterday I was by prosecutor.
Okay, so yesterday the prosecutor said go look for these things. So before that, you and other investigators decided not to. Did I get that right?
The information that we were given, we were told that they would a screenshot for the day, right, the parameters of. We did not have this, we were not, didn't see that they would be thrown.
But you didn't look back then. You waited until yesterday. Is that right?
No, we looked back then. I can tell you what time. Most of the photos that were taken for the daily screenshot or the daily screenshots were daytime. They were the days kind of thing. So we didn't grab those at the time.
Okay, but you did look at the time and made a decision at the time. Do I understand that now?
Yes.
Okay. Back to the cast bid.
Yeah, I think what she's wanting to put out there on the record, which is definitely important, is he had a choice. He is trained a certain way, and part of the way that he is trained is you have to follow certain procedures in order to use certain types of information. And if you aren't, like, it's against the law. And like, he is not following the checks and balances, or like the procedural ways of that he's supposed to do things, and they're intentionally choosing to do it that way. Like, she definitely just got that on record for a reason.
Is for a couple of questions for you. When you were doing the work back in April of 2023, did you see maps on the screen with the work that you were doing?
Yes.
And you also made a video of that. I want to show you a map and see what I think it is. In front of you, what is that?
There's a screen capture of the cast list something.
Is that a screen capture from a map that you made?
Yes.
All right. You're removed for admission of defendants are.
Is it ours submitted? No objection.
Okay, I just want to put in there, for the record, the ACAB True Crime record, right there. This is record G, she said, I think. Or no, it's record R. Record R. Mark my word that she's going to go back. She's going to be able to come back, and she's going to be able to show that they did not get the same map that he presented for. That was, she's like, she just asked him, was this your map that you made? Is this a screenshot from the map that you made using this biz program? And he said yes. So, I mean, I think that that's important, and I do feel like I said, mark my word, I bet they're going to come back and they're going to say that what the information that Ann Taylor has that was created using that same information that he just said could be recreated, and it should be getting the same, results. I can guarantee you it's not going to be that way, because he messed with the data and intentionally chose to not show that how they did that by not saving their work. It's crazy. This is crazy to me.
And are you aware that when you can see mapping on your screen on this program that there's a log created?
Oh,
you would agree that if
yeah, so I feel like that's important. I think he, it sounds like he just admitted that maybe there might be information there that they don't actually have. Like, he is admitting, okay, they have information that he didn't know about, like that this data system does save, certain ways. Like, I don't know, maybe if you don't save it, like, you can't go back in, but maybe the system does actually save and like is able to remember some of this stuff. Like, I don't know, data people are crazy. Like, so that would be interesting. It sounds like they do have a log that he didn't know about, so it will show like what he's done. So I think that is going to end up being really important later down the line too.
I would call detail records that have the tower report in them. I would have to have the same cast version you were using to recreate what you did. Would you agree with that?
If I took the regular cell, call detail records, and put them into a different version of the cast, are you saying that it would become different?
Well, I don't know. That's a good question. Let me try to be more clear about the one I was asking, and then I like yours. We might talk about your question as well. My question is, and the prosecutor suggested that your work could be recreated, and so it didn't matter that you hadn't saved your session. What I want to know is, if I have the 48-hour call detail records that contain the tower list like you have, do I have to have the cast biz program that you used so I can see what you did?
I don't know, because I don't know the back end of the cast software. That's not just me, so I don't know.
And you were in this cast biz program, at least for a while, creating exhibits that would be your life. Is that right?
Yes.
On more than one occasion, is that right?
Yes.
But you didn't save your work.
You did not create a session log. That's even me.
Would you agree I can't see what you did without your session log? Can't examine what you did without your session log?
Is there to create the visualizations for the exhibits? Yes.
Okay, so that she's saying the same shit that I've now been saying this whole time. Like, there is no way to backtrack his information. That's super important. Like, there's no way that he can prove that what he presented isn't full of a bunch of bullshit. Like, he can't prove that. And like the fact that he is trying to pretend like that's not important, or that he doesn't realize like that's important, like literally suggests to me this dude like has the IQ of like a 11-year-old. Seriously, like that's not possible. And again, if he is this incapable or incompetent, like then they should all be very concerned about the rest of the investigations that he's worked on, to be honest.
So I just guess this.
But I can't see what you did. Is that right? Is that right?
No.
No, it's not right, or no, I can't see what you did.
You cannot, but I could take those selfie or call the records, put them into guesses again. The results would be, but because we're still using the same records from AT&T to create
Have you done that?
these records. Yes. No.
Thanks, that's it.
Thank you. Anything on that, Ms. Jennings?
Why did you pull the CDRs into CASTIS?
Why did I want you? Because I was asked by you to do it for the gender.
Okay. Is that the only reason you did it?
Yes.
Is that the only time you did it?
Yes.
Okay.
That I remember. I mean,
Follow up on that question?
Nope, thank you.
Okay, great.
Okay, so at this point, he ends up just saying that the hearing's over, but then he asks to go over some paperwork that they can all sign together or whatever, and it sounded like it was like a little bit hung up with certain different motions to seal, and it's kind of just not relevant to this video, but there was one notable thing about it, and that is like when it sounds like to me, and I think that I had maybe heard this on like a couple of different places too, that the defense actually ended up filing a bunch of like a motion with a bunch of information attached that the state had wanted to keep sealed in their motion, but then she was like, yeah, like actually that was our response, so we didn't seal that. So in a way, like they put out information that the state was trying to seal. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I should definitely like look into that, because that would be interesting what all of information she released there. But okay, and here's kind of that part.
In our earlier agreement.
That's the state's motion, and I know we responded to that, and we did not seal our response to that.
Okay. State is asking for sealing on that.
Sounds like no.
Well, I'm just not sure. Is there an objection? It's the state's motion to seal. Is there an objection from defense to seal?
No, if they want their documents sealed, that's fine. We have responded publicly, and so I wondered if that changed.
Okay, so I'll sign this. That's one. I just don't want to get in trouble with your arguments about sealing and not sealing. Okay. I just want to be very clear on record.
Thank you for that.
Okay, so the rest of this is, I think, just mainly bookkeeping. But the other notable thing during all of these was just all of the state's motions to seal. It just doesn't make sense to seal all this shit. It almost feels like the same thing that the cops are doing right now with not showing their work, except it's the prosecution not wanting to show their work to us, like, and the public, like they're supposed to. So I just don't understand why that keeps happening with this case. And I really think the judge should stop allowing it to happen, so we can actually see. Like, I don't understand why they get to keep covering this stuff. Actually, I do have a theory about it, and it has to do with IGG. And I have a theory that that is their confidential informant, which I think has been said before, but anyways, but I'll get into that in like the next video or the one after that. But yeah.
Nothing from us.
Okay, thank you all. Your turn. Appreciate it.
Okay, so I think this video is a little bit longer than I thought it would be. I thought that I only had like another, like 15 minutes left or something, but I think next time to go over the testimony from Brett Payne that they talk about on the 30th, and then also I know I also want to like publish or post some stuff about the DNA that I found out about. And I thought that was pretty interesting too. And there's ways to definitely mess with DNA. And so, alrighty. Well, I will talk to you guys later. Thank you so much for still being here, if you're still listening. And please subscribe and like the video if you do. And I will see you guys all next time. Thanks. Bye. Oh yeah, also follow me on Substack. I do some writing stuff there and usually post when I do a video. Okay, thanks. Bye.